world of handmade business can be tough when trying to monetize what you love. We've got truth bombs and motivation to help you find your way through. Passion to profit, let's start today, 'cause the world needs what you create. Tune in right now, it's your shot to learn how to be a handmade boss.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Be a Handmade Boss podcast. So today I really want to talk about how to find your target audience, right? Because during my Monday lives, which if you don't know, every single Monday I go live and do a little mini workshop, a little chit chat, just basically to make the whole being self-employed thing a little less lonely, right? So without a doubt, every single week, I do get a question about target audience, right? And today I specifically really wanted to talk about how to find your target audience. And in a next episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to speak to them, how to really attract them and how to actually get them to convert. But I wanted to really dedicate one episode talking about how to find them, how to understand them, how you know you're on the right track, okay? So let's start at the beginning. So as you know, in my book, and I actually have my book here, so if you hear me flicking through pages, I like to have my book here just to remind me of some bullet points, because obviously my brain is only so big, and not big as in I have a massive brain, but I only have so much brain space, so I always like to have my book on hand just so I can remind myself. It's almost like my handbook, really. And if you want to grab yourself a copy of the book, I will put the link in the show notes below. But if you just go to Amazon and type in how to be a handmade boss, you will find it, and it's very highly rated, so yes, awesome. So the first thing is your target audience really underpins everything. It is really the foundations of your entire business, okay? And I like to think of it as the foundations of a house. You can go ahead and build some walls. You can go ahead and add some windows in. You can go and put a door in. You could even put a roof on. But if the foundations are crappy, that thing is going to fall down. And it might take a year, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, or at the very least, there's going to be some kind of issue there, right? Target audience is really kind of like the number one thing that I would say everyone has to really do first, okay? Now, your target audience will influence everything you do. So it will influence how you market. It will influence how you create products. It will influence your brand. It will influence how you use sales copy, descriptions. It's really everything, because every single part of your business must be linked back to a target audience. This is where handmade business owners start to run into trouble, because they are creating products that they don't really know is going to sell. They are putting social media posts out there, but not getting any engagement, no likes, no comments, nothing. It seems like no one is out there. They are maybe even doing craft fairs and nobody buys, or people come up to their store and say, oh, that's really lovely, oh yeah, and then never buy. They might be getting views, they might be getting favorites, but not getting the sales. And literally, probably 90% of the time, most of the shops that I work with do have some kind of target audience problem, okay? So as you can imagine, it's really freaking important to get this right. And it's actually something that I recommend all of the newbies listening out there to make sure you get this down before you move on. I don't care if it takes you a month. I don't care if it takes you 6 months. Just please get this down. And I actually recommend going to a brand that you love. I choose 3, and they can be anything. It can be a high street store, it can be a fellow Etsy shop owner, it could be a handmade business website, whatever tickles your fancy, and just bathe in it. Just sit there and say, am I the right target audience for this? Do I find myself attracted to this brand? Am I feeling all the feels? Am I like attracted to everything that this brand stands for? And if you aren't, make some notes on that. And that would be my first thing to say, is become very aware of the things that you like and why. And 100%, please don't just listen to this and listen to what I'm saying and go, oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I'll have a little think about that. No, I want you to write it down, because honestly, when you allow just your stream of consciousness to make notes and write things down, amazing things happen. So grab a pen and paper, do it on an iPad, get a Google Doc going. And this is something that I do. I have a running Google Doc that I add to probably once or twice a month called Target Market. And every time I interact with one of you guys, I hear what you have to say. I listen to a voice note. I get involved in lives. I will always make some kind of note so that I am the best possible version of the best possible service that I can be to you guys. And I'm really diligent about it. And I'm almost feeling like every single one of you listening should also be as such. Okay. So target audience, right? It's like a very broad term for the person who you are aiming everything in your business towards. Okay. And there are two different types, okay? So there is demographics, which is things like what's their name, what's their age, where do they live, what kind of pets do they have, what shops do they like, where do they work, what's their salary like, do they have kids, are they single, are they with someone, all those kinds of things, like almost factual things, okay? But then you have psychographics, okay? And this is things like their interest, desires, goals, values, frustrations, pain points, annoyance points, all those kinds of things. So I recommend making a list of them and maybe even having a table with 2 columns in and being like demographics, psychographics, right? And it's really important to have them both, okay? So 9 times out of 10, you will get your demographics down pretty early on. You'll know the kind of general age. You'll know the gender or what they identify as. You'll know a rough kind of area that they might live in. You get to understand all of these things. Psychographics is something that I suggest adding to over a period of time, okay? So you might be listening to this and saying, yeah, okay, that sounds great, but I have no idea on any of this. Like, where do I start to even try and find these people? Like, how do I know what to write on my list, what to write in my 2 columns? Okay. So the very first port of call here is reflect on yourself. Okay. Because 9 times out of 10, our target audience is a previous version of ourselves. Okay, so let's say, for example, that you create party planner downloadable templates and other party planning things for kids, right? And that's your business. You are someone who wants to make the whole party planning process a lot easier. And you do so through downloadables, printables, maybe even in-person journals, all that kind of stuff, right? So why did you start the business that you have now? What about the struggle that you previously had pushed you to find a solution for that problem? Okay, so you probably started to look for, okay, where am I going to go and find something to help me plan my daughter's birthday party? I'm a busy mum. I have 2 other kids. I do not have time because I work part-time or I work full-time or whatever. I don't have time to sit and plan out this amazing unicorn-themed birthday party. However, I still feel guilty. I feel guilty about spending so much time away from my kids. I feel guilty about not being able to do a lot of the things that I want to do with them. So I really want to make sure that this party is perfect. Okay. So lean into that. Ask yourself, when I was struggling with this, what position was I in terms of demographics? What age was I? Where did I work? Etc. All these factual things. Okay. Then ask yourself, when I was struggling with this, what was I feeling? What was my struggles? What was my values? What was I thinking? And write all of that down. So that's the first really simple, easy way of actually starting to dig into this. You created your business for a very specific reason. 9 times out of 10, it's a previous version of you that was the catalyst for you to start making the products that you make. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is to observe, okay, and just look at the people around you, all right? So this is where kind of digging back in to brands that you know and love yourself, has nothing to do with what you sell, and look at, what do you have in common with other people around you? Okay. Because again, 9 times out of 10, one target audience member will be very similar to others out there. And this is where you start to find those patterns and you observe all the other people around you. Okay. So bringing it back to your own business, look at previous people that you've served, previous customers. What have their messages been like? What have their reviews been like? If you're selling on Etsy, go onto their Etsy profiles. What do they favor? What do they like? What other things have they got on their lists? You can go so far as to stalk and be like, what's their profile picture like? And it's the same on social media. Choose maybe 3 to 5 people that you know always comment, always engage. And it can be friends and family, as long as they are people that buy your products and genuinely obsess over them. And just have a little look, like what are they doing online? What feedback have they given you? What type of products have they bought? What's the use of them been? And just start to dig into all of the data that you already have. And you can even look at favorites, wish list, clicks, and all that kind of stuff, okay? It's really worth just starting to look outside of yourself, because obviously we did that in step 1 to reflect upon where we are. And step 2 is really looking about what other people are doing around you and what other people are acting, the demographics that they have, the psychographics that they have. And this step, honestly, is probably the most chunky one. This is probably the one that's going to take you the most amount of time. Now, I fully expect, and I know I'm going to get people saying, how do I know if I've got there or not? I will say that for step 2, for this step, I want you guys to spend a month on this, and a solid month, like just digging into everything that you possibly can. You can join Facebook groups where other target audience members are in. You can go onto Instagram profiles and see who follows them, see who follows those people, see who those people follow themselves. I really want you to go full on stalker mode with this and just really dig into all of the information that you have online. Now, actually, an interesting thing here is that if you do have a competitor brand that's quite a big brand, you can actually go onto Google and type in, let's say, for example, I don't know, Oliver Bonus target audience. And if you just Google that, sometimes it's a bit hit and miss, but sometimes you'll find they'll have some kind of target audience info for investors, and they have to be very diligent in terms of what they're disclosing. They have to be really open. So if it's a public traded company, this is where you win here, because all of that information is already out there, right? So I want you to spend a lot of time on this, okay? Now, step 3 is something that I know a lot of you will shy away from. Okay, and I know that probably a lot of you will do step 1, maybe some of you will do step 2, but probably hardly any of you are going to do step 3 here. And that is to ask people, like to actually survey them, to put polls up, to actually get direct feedback, okay? And as for how and where you can do this, honestly, social media makes it so damn easy. Just start by putting a poll on your Instagram stories. Start by putting a poll in a broadcast group. Start by putting a poll in a Facebook group. Start by asking people direct questions. And questions such as, what's your age? What's your gender? What do you identify as? Where do you work? Where do you live? Like, all these things are great. But I'm also going to be asking you to ask them things about their psychographics as well. How are you feeling about X right now? What's your biggest struggle with Y? And questions like that. Now, you might only get 2 or 3 people respond back, but that is a fantastic place to start. Because the minute you have a grounding base for all of this, you are going to be able to catapult yourself, create a brand that stands out to these people, and therefore you're going to start to get more sales. Your target audience on social media is going to grow and grow. And then the very next time you do all of this, and I recommend you do all of this at least twice a year, you're going to get a lot more people respond to those polls, respond to those surveys, right? So this is really where things start to get interesting. And I've been doing this now for 5-6 years. And every single time I do this, I'm always surprised by what someone says. The surprises get less and less. The more you do this, really, honestly, the more of an expert you become in your target audience. But it never ceases to amaze me, all the things that come up. And this is why I really love Google Forms, and it's free. So it's a free survey to create and run. And this is why I really like having some open questions. And you can do the equivalent on Instagram stories by having a question box, right? But I love this because you get to actually see the words that people type, and you see the language and all that good stuff that they actually use. Okay. So it's all just really great stuff. Okay. Now, one other thing is you don't want to just do this once and then leave it. Like I've said, you have to do this at least twice a year. And I'd recommend doing it like just after Christmas time or just over Christmas time, whatever, and around about the mid-year mark. So around about now is a good time to start to plan this stuff in. Okay. And I really mean, I want you to stick it in your calendar, a literal thing that you cannot and will not move. This is really important stuff, guys. Okay. And a big mistake that I see is people just like leaving this and going, yeah, I've done it now. That's it. I've sorted all of that. I don't have to worry now about digging into my target audience anymore. And there's two issues with this. Number one is that things change. Like your target audience's thoughts, feelings will change and differ as the world changes and differs, right? You 2-3 years ago are probably not the same person that you are now. So when you think of it like that, you almost think of a timeline of your life and how your thoughts and feelings and emotions change. And these are all things that we need to make a note of if we're trying to attract that particular target audience. Okay. Now, notice I use the word attract here. And this leads me on to point number 2, right? Is you ideally want to attract people. A lot of people, when they think of marketing, they think of pushing people, a bit like a dodgy car salesman, right? But actually what you want to focus on is attraction. That's what we lean into because that is the easiest way to market. We're not talking about push, go look at this thing, go buy a thing. We're actually looking at attraction, and it's so much more organic. It's so much more holistic. It's just a lot nicer approach. So if we do want to attract the right person in, a second mistake of just leaving it is that when you are creating new products, 9 times out of 10, you can almost forget who your target audience is. And it's really something that I see happening a lot, where people are just like, I'm going to create this product, I'm going to create this product, I'm going to create this product. And 4 or 5 iterations down the line, we've almost forgotten who this perfect person is. And it's at that point that I'm like, hey, guys, we need to actually dig back into this again and find out who this person is. Okay. And it's, again, something that I'd recommend doing is asking people every time you want to release like a brand spanking new product line, something that you've never done before or nothing similar to, and ask people, hey, are you interested in this? Do you want to see this? Is there something that you would buy? Okay. And I've recently done that with a possible mastermind, is that I've been asking people, and I've spent probably the best part of 18 months quietly behind the scenes, taking notes, asking people what they want to see. Now, I'm not saying you have to spend 18 months doing this, but for me, the more I can dig into the needs and the wants and the desires and the values, the more I can create a product that I know is actually going to work really well. And it's going to get decent reviews. It's going to get results, which is everything that you guys want at the end of the day. So guys, I really hope that this was fantastically helpful for you. In an upcoming episode, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be the next one or not, but in an upcoming one, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how to call those people in and how to reach out to them, how to talk to them, how to attract those people in. Now, one thing I would love is that if you liked this episode, I would love for you to do 2 things for me. Number 1 is to just give it a little share on social media, because obviously we put a lot of thought and effort into recording these, and we would love to share it out there in the big wide world and help more people. There's room for us all to win at the end of the day. And the second thing is, if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, that would really help the algorithm to push this podcast out to more people. So for now, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Be a Handmade Boss. And if you're eager to boost your Etsy sales within just 7 days, then be sure to join my most popular free training at handmadebosses.com/conversion. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. Keep an eye out for our next episode where we'll be continuing our journey towards handmade business success together. And until then, keep crafting and stay inspired, because the world really does need those special creations that only you can make.